This is part one of an overview of the new sculpting features and enhancements for Mudbox 2009. So here you can see I have my base mesh here, and I'm just going to turn the wireframe on. You'll see that this is a lower resolution mesh. It's at about 1300 polys. I'm just going to go ahead and step up some levels of subdivision here, and you can see in the top right corner it's going to give me kind of a heads up display on that. Just going to go up to about level 3 and create a new layer. And we're just going to start kind of big, start working in some of the bulk kind of basic details and work our way up from there. So I'm just going to start out with one of our new brushes here, the foamy brush. And this is great for working in some of those details. I'm going to turn my mirroring on. You can see it gives us a nice preview of our plane of symmetry. So I'm just going to work in X. And I'm just going to start to kind of work in some of the kind of bulk details here along his chest, maybe kind of build it over there. And you can see that brush kind of builds upon itself as I go, so it's kind of a nice way to build up some basic forms. I'm just stepping up to about level 4 here, and I'm going to create a whole new layer, and I'm going to grab one of our new brushes here as well. This is the grab brush. I'm going to leave my mirroring on, and I'll just adjust the radius on my brush. The grab is going to work based off of that radius of that brush, and I want to work on these eye tops here, so I want to be able to pull some of the geometry out along here so that I can just kind of shape it a little bit. This is a great tool for building morph shapes. So you could build an entire library of morph shapes in your layers here using something like this. So just increase the radius and just kind of shaping this in a bit here. I'm just going to push those eyes in there. That should do. And I'm just going to go ahead and actually grab my sculpt brush here, and I'm just going to turn my symmetry off for this. And I'm just going to start to rough in some of these kind of neck rolls around here. So maybe some kind of like rolls of fat or large kind of bulky wrinkles here. So just kind of work in some of the details on here. Maybe get that down a bit there. And we'll just kind of quickly work in some really basic, nice smooth kind of bulk kind of wrinkles here. Just kind of layer it upon itself there. And that's fine. I'm just going to step up another level here as well. So we're going to go up to resolution 5, and that's at about 1.1 million polys. I'm just going to create a whole new layer for that as well. And we're going to grab another one of our new brush tools here, and this is the flatten tool. And let's just turn our symmetry back on for this. So I wanted to be able to do some nice detailing up here. So what the flatten brush is going to do is it's going to allow me to flatten out the vertices towards a common plane. So if I kept doing that, eventually I'd bring it right up to a nice flattened plateau there. And I'm just going to kind of flatten out the top of his head where I want to put some more detail on there. And I'm going to jump down to our bulge brush here, and leaving my symmetry on, just adjust the radius of this. I want to put some of these kind of knobby kind of details in and around his eyes there. Let's just bring this up here. Make sure our fall off, maybe I'll use a bit of a larger fall off on there so we can get these kind of nice results in and around here. And I can just start building in some of these details there. And of course, while I'm working, I'll turn my symmetry off, maybe adjust the fall off on there. Whoops. Just turn that off so that I get a little more of an asymmetrical feel on that while I'm building these details away, and I can just kind of keep working on these kind of bulgy effects up in here. So I'm going to use this sculpt and my bulge brush here. So if I just jump back to my sculpt here, I'm just going to actually start to work in some folds right here behind the eye, kind of above the ear cavity there. And I'm just going to kind of work in some of these kind of fold effects on here. And I'm going to use that with my bulge brush. And what the bulge brush is going to do is kind of push it out along its vertices there, so I can just kind of get these kind of bulgy effects going on along the in this kind of detailing along behind the eye above the ear cavity there. That'll do. And if I just jump back to my sculpt, I'm just using my 1 hotkey for that. I can go ahead and I'll adjust the radius on this, and I hit my control key, and of course I'm getting the inverse result on that. So just kind of going to work these valleys in. Let's maybe just work in a little bit of valleys in and around those kind of bulgy results in there. So I can just work with that. And I'm just going to hit my shift and access my smooth brush. I can access that smooth brush from any of the brushes there, so I'm just going to kind of smooth out my details a little bit in there. That's fine. And then what we're going to do is I'm just going to jump back into my sculpt brush here, and let's just quickly work in some wrinkles around the eye here. I'll just turn my symmetry back on for this. And actually, if you take a look at this, I can just go ahead and I can start to freehand that in, and that's one thing. But if I want something a little more smooth, a little more consistent, I can just turn on my steady stroke here, and this gives us a nice smooth kind of lead off, a little bit of a leash on there, and I can even increase that if I wanted a little more of a leash, a little more of a lead time on that, and that'll just give me these nice kind of flowing kind of wrinkles in there. And then of course as well I can always access, let's just turn off our steady stroke on there, and I'm just going to use my smooth brush here and just smooth out the edges or the tips of these kind of wrinkles along these eyes here. That's fine. And I'm just going to grab our pinch brush, and the pinch brush works excellent for kind of sharpening details. So I have my steady stroke on, so I can just kind of follow that existing path there, and we can go ahead and let's just undo that one and just go ahead and kind of pinch along there. Maybe I just want a little bit of pinch on there and a little bit falling off there, and leave it a little bit bulky on that side, and that's fine. And then what I'm going to do is jump into another one of our new brushes here, and this is the wax brush. And the wax brush, like the foamy brush, is an excellent tool for kind of building upon itself. So this tool is very powerful in the way that it works like you're adding material, much like clay or wax that you're adding to it. So I can just keep kind of building up some of these little results or these areas in here, and just kind of work in some details on the ear cavity on there. And just to illustrate the way that brush works, let's just turn off the symmetry on there and just zoom out to the chest on here. If I take my sculpt brush and I go ahead and I start to just kind of sculpt some areas here, you can see that I'm getting stepping upon my sculpt stroke there, which is fine if that's what I want. The wax brush, on the other hand, is going to give me more of a building result. So you can see here as I just go ahead and do this, I'm actually building the geometry up, and I can just keep going and just keep building as if I'm adding material to that. So of course if I do the inverse by holding down Control, it's going to give me kind of an inverse effect on that. I'm getting kind of a cavity built up there. While we're on that, if I grab our new scrape brush here as well, I can get kind of a removing material result here. So let's just maybe crank up our strength on that, and it's as if I'm kind of removing material on that. And beside that, you'll see we have our fill brush. I'm just going to increase my radius here, and I'm actually just filling in almost like I'm adding material to that. And if I quickly access our smooth brush here using our shift key again, you can see I can just kind of smooth those results out and rather quickly get it back to pretty much where we started there. So we've scraped away material, kind of added material to it, and just kind of smoothened it back out.